This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, we're very fortunate tonight to have one of my good young friends, one of the outstanding young leaders here in Montgomery, probate judge J.C. Love. J.C., good to have you back on the show.
Oh, glad to be on the show. Thanks for having me on.
J.C. is a fine gentleman. I call him a young man because you ain't very old. You ain't before 40 years old. You even 40?
41.
41
Turned
years
41
old.
back in
Good.
December.
That ain't nothing when you get to be my age. 41 ain't nothing. You're a young man, but J.C. is a good, outstanding, has always been an outstanding gentleman here in Montgomery. He's Montgomery through and through. Ran for mayor last year, got a good vote, and lost to another native Montgomeryan, Stephen Reed, and both of them did well because they born and raised here. You know, people like to vote for people they knew and have seen grown up and gone to church with and gone to elementary school with and everything. And after J.C., after Stephen Reed, who was the then probate judge of Montgomery County, got elected mayor of Montgomery, he had to leave the probate judge office, and then Governor Ivey appointed J.C. Love to be the probate judge. So J.C. Love is all you folks in Montgomery County's probate judge here in Montgomery County. It's a 6-year term, and I almost believe you got about 5 years left on that term, ain't you?
Well, yes,
he just started out in his 6-year term, wasn't he?
Well, yes, back in 2018, so I'm not on the ballot until 2024.
2024.
Yes.
Well, it's good to start early, though.
I know, yes.
So y'all, if young voters here in Montgomery, remember J.C. is on the ballot in 2024. It'll be here before you know it.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
J.C., now tell me your history and everything. I like everybody being from Montgomery. I sat by old gentleman at supper one night, Mr. Franco, who was here born and raised. He told me he's almost 90 years old. And I don't know, Mr. Franco's a lawyer. One of his sons is a lawyer with Franco Copeland.
Oh, yes.
And but I don't know what Mr. Franco did for a living. He was an accountant, I think, wasn't he? I don't know what he did, but anyway, he and I were talking about old politics. I don't know if you know the history of this or not, but back in the old days of Montgomery, there were two prominent families, and they were divided politically. It was the Hill family, old Lister Hill's family,
yes,
and the Gunner family.
I didn't know that.
The Gunners and Hills were aligned, and they were diametrically opposed to each other, and they were actually machines. You were either on the Hill family machine or the Gunner family machine, and they would fight for every local office, from legislature to everything, even in governor's races.
Wow.
People who ran for governor would come to see the Gunner family and say, I want to. And they picked the congressman. And Lister Hill was a congressman from here who came from the Hill family. The Hill family was very prominent here. And Lister Hill's daddy was a surgeon, Leonidas Hill, who was the first person to suture the human heart.
Wow.
He did open heart surgery in Montgomery, Alabama around 1920.
Wow.
He sent his son. The old doctor, had studied with the famous Dr. Joseph Lister in Europe.
Oh, wow.
He had studied with Dr. Lister. That's how he come through the old Stark Academy School, aristocratic school, and then gone to Ivy League schools and maybe Alabama Medical School. But then he come back to Montgomery and practiced medicine. But some guy had gotten stabbed in a bar fight and was going to die, and Dr. Hill operated on him, saved him, and did an open heart transplant.
Wow, I didn't know that
in
happened.
In the 1920s here in Montgomery.
Wow.
But then the Gunners, they controlled the mayor's office. And sometimes they would get together and make brokered deals. And Lister Hill went to Congress in 1926. His son, Dr. Hill, who did the open heart surgery, Lister Hill was one of our most famous United States senators, you know.
Yes, he was.
He served in the 2nd District for 12 years. He went to Congress at 28 years old.
Oh, he did?
26.
Wow.
26 years old. He was at the United States Congress from here in the 2nd District. and then he stayed 12 years during the New Deal, and then went to the Senate when Hugo Black went to the Supreme Court.
Wow.
Franklin Roosevelt appointed Hugo Black to the Supreme Court in 1938, and Lister Hill won that open seat.
Oh, wow.
In 1938. But you go. Let me tell me about your family. You were born. If you were born in 41.
I was born in 1978.
78. What year? What hospital were you born in?
I was born in a Baptist hospital before there was a Baptist East and a Baptist South.
Eastern Bypass.
Eastern Bypass, yes.
My daughter was born out there in 77.
She was. So was my wife.
No, 83. My second daughter was born in 83. Was born in that same hospital.
She was?
Barry Wilson delivered her.
Oh, well, I can't recall the doctor that delivered me, but yes, I was born there. My wife was born there. I think about 33 days later.
Now, your wife and y'all the same age?
Yes, we're both. She was born back in January of '79, so about 33 days apart.
You born in December of '78.
And she's born in January of '79.
Now, did y'all go to school together, in high school and everything?
We met each other in junior high over at Baldwin. So we went to junior high school together. So I always had a crush on her in junior high.
Well, she's a pretty girl.
Well, thank you.
She's a dermatologist, isn't she?
Yes, she is.
Now, did she go? Where did she go to undergraduate school?
She went to the University of Alabama.
Good.
Undergrad, and so she got the Sullivan and Bloom Awards.
Her dad's a State Farm agent.
Yes, he's Cedric Bradford here in Montgomery, Alabama.
He and I and the Red Elephant Club together.
Oh, you are? Yes.
In the Montgomery Red Elephant Club. Cedric and I got the Red Elephant Club together.
Oh, well, yes. You know, this is his favorite. This is pretty much his favorite day of the year. You know, National
Signing Day.
Signing
Well, of course,
Day.
they sign early now. You know.
Oh, yeah, they do. It's not the same now with the early signing day in December versus what it used to be up here in February. But he still loves this time of the year to see what Alabama's going to look like and the new players that are coming in.
He and I both love it. Now, now, how many children does Cedric have?
He has three daughters. My wife is the eldest, and she has another daughter, Amber, another sister, Amber, that went to Alabama that's 3 years younger, and she has a sister, Karen, who also went to Alabama that's 11 years younger than she is.
Any of them become medical doctors besides your wife?
No, she's the only one that went to medical school and became a doctor. The other one.
Did she go to UAB?
No, she went to Duke for for medical school and for a residency.
Now, J.C., tell me, so you were born and raised, went to Baldwin. Y'all went to Jeff Davis, didn't you?
I went to Jeff Davis. My wife continued on to Lamp.
Okay. But then, where'd you go to undergraduate school?
I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, you and Stephen both did, Stephen?
Yes, he graduated in the class of '96, and I got there in fall of '97. So
y'all the same age?
He's about
3 years.
He's about 46 and about 5 years older than I am.
Yeah, both of y'all. So you went on to Morehouse and came back to Alabama Law School? And
I went to Boston College for law school.
Boston College,
yes.
Were you tempted to stay up there? Had you and your wife started dating by then?
Well, you know, we had kind of gone our own separate ways and really reconnected about 2008. And we got married in 2011, and it was always my plan to really come back home to Montgomery.
You were going to come back
and she wanted to come back as well, and I think it was really our dream and really desire that when we had a family to have them raised really close to, you know, their grandparents, have our kids to have a really close relationship with our grandparents. So that's been one of the great things.
That's good.
That's really been with my parents being from here and her parents being from here, and it's really helped us, particularly with me used to being a practicing attorney and my wife, you know, being a dermatologist.
Now tell me about y'all's children. How old are they?
Well, I've got a 4-year-old little girl named Caroline and a 3-year-old named Catherine and a 21-month-old little boy named James.
Is your name James?
Well, no, I'm just JC, and so we named him James Christopher. So he has, my name was just initials, and so we just gave him a name for the initials.
That's good. Are they close together, ain't they?
They're about 15 months apart.
All three of them, huh?
But they get along very well. So our home is very spirited and very lively in the evenings in the weekends when they get together.
And both of your parents are doing well, and both sets of grandparents enjoy them, don't they?
Oh, yeah, they really do. You know, and so they get them on the weekends. And my mother-in-law retired once we got around. She worked for the State Department of Education, and she was a teacher and educator in MPS. And so she retired around the time we were having our third one. So she helps us out tremendously by picking them up from daycare and getting them home and getting them fed, which allows us to kind of wind down our day before we get home. So it would make it very difficult for us to do what we do with not being able to have our families here to really rely on.
JC, you were with a pretty prominent law firm. What firm are you with?
I was with Rushton Stakely Johnson and Garrett here in Montgomery.
Were you just doing defense work?
I was doing insurance defense, primarily medical malpractice defense.
Charlie Staker still doing that too?
Well, he retired a number of years ago, but he's down there every day like he's still
Tommy
practicing.
King's still over there doing it?
He's still down there, still practicing. Just won a big trial here in Montgomery County back in December.
He's been doing that malpractice for Pro Assurance for years.
About 40, 45
Yeah.
years, and so he's still going strong.
Yeah. He and Stan Starnes, who's now president of Pro Assurance,
Yes.
were doing it. Stan did it in Birmingham, and Tommy King was the main one, and Stakely was one of the main ones doing the defense work here in Montgomery. But that was a tough call for you to be probate judge, move from a private law practice to be probate judge.
Yes, it was.
What made you want to do that?
Well, it was an opportunity to really be of service here to the people here in Montgomery County. Obviously, I ran for mayor. And after the campaign, I initially thought I would go back and just kind of go back and practice in law. But a number of people reached out to me and said that the probate office may be a good fit, and really looked and saw what the office did and saw some things that I thought I could really do to try to move that office forward, and decided to put my name in the hat and offer myself up to be of service to the county.
But now, J.C., there was a learning curve. You didn't just know learning that because it ain't the same. I mean, what people don't realize, but when you specialize in a certain practice of law, being a probate judge is a whole different thing.
It's a whole completely different area of law, and so
people don't realize how many jobs a probate judge has. You're the chief election officer.
Yes, you are.
Y'all don't have the tags here.
We have the tags.
Oh my God, you got the tags too.
We have the driver's license. We oversee the county archivist.
But the thing about you also got commitments.
Yes, we have commitments, and that's becoming a larger and larger part. What I do every day on my docket, and with every probate judge here around the state, when we got together at our state meeting a few weeks ago, and that's what we all really talked about, that mental health and dealing with the commitments becoming a larger and larger part of what we can do as a state to really get more resources towards mental health.
Well, that to me, when talking to the probate judges I know, starting about 20 years ago, the ones I know, the probate judges, they said that has just become a nightmare. A lot with all the onset of drug addiction, there's just so many mental health problems. I remember having Stephen on the show and Reese McKinney on the show,
yes.
both when they were running for probate judge.
Yes.
I gave them both the same amount of time, let them come on when Stephen and them were running against each other for probate judge. And I asked him about that, and he looked at me and says, "It ain't just Montgomery County." He said, "Every small county." He said, "I got a lot of people come in from Pike County and have a bad night, and we have to commit them up here."
Oh, yes.
You got people from up Macon County.
Oh, yeah.
They just happen to wind up in Montgomery doing drugs or getting drunk or whatever they do to get the mind messed up, and you got to deal with them up here.
Oh, yes, and so.
If they get arrested here in Montgomery County, even if they're from Macon.
If they have a crisis in our jail, then they're going to get brought to us, and we're going to have to deal with them.
I don't see how you do all that. I mean, it's pretty tough, but that's 3 different jobs, really.
Well, it's more than that, and that's one of the things that I really didn't get until I really got there, that you see that really the court system is pretty much about 25% of what I do, but it's a large part really with the commitment side. But as you said, that you have the tags, you have the driver's license, you have the marriage license, we have the 3 satellite offices, you have the election center where we're getting ready for the upcoming primaries on March 3rd, and then we're getting ready for the runoff election on 31st, 28 days later. And then we've got to get ready for office. We're also conducting Pike Road's municipal elections back on August 25th, and then we're getting ready for the presidential election. So
you're already getting ready for them, aren't you?
Yeah,
you have to run the Pike Road city election?
Well, we're the election center for the county. And so
Montgomery City has an election.
Well, Pike Road, yeah, we run them for the city of Montgomery. In Montgomery County, we're the election center for the city and for the county, and so.
I guess the city of Montgomery and Pike Road are the only 2 incorporated cities in Montgomery, though, aren't they?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But y'all the probate office has to run the city elections.
Well, they have the clerk office, and we bring the machines and set everything up and make sure everything runs smoothly for them.
And they've got a mayor's race out there in city council this year.
Yes.
So you already getting ready for that in August.
Oh, yes. So it's still in our books to get ready for as soon as we begin to finish these state and local and national races up here next month.
I think we're going to see some of the Democratic candidates come in the state. Bloomberg's coming Saturday. You know?
He's coming Saturday. I think we're going to see all of them over the next probably 25 days.
JC, I sure hope y'all run the election better than Iowa did yesterday.
Well, we're going to do our best job, and that's one of the things that's keeping me up at night, just trying to make sure we dot all the I's,
That's a
cross the
nightmare,
T's.
isn't it?
Well, it's a big challenge.
I'm talking about the Iowa thing.
Well, you know, when you see that, you know, you kind of scratch your head. I think I saw something saying the internet went down about getting returns, and there was something about taking pictures of the sheets and trying to, you know, text them into their election center, and just seems to be a mess there. And so I'm knocking on wood, hoping that everything goes a lot smoother here than they're experiencing out in Iowa.
You said something on the Supreme Court, some Chief Justice, somebody doing something on the E.
Well,
what did they do?
E-filing. One of the things that I wanted to, when I got to the court, and I noticed that we didn't have an electronic filing system. Having been a practicing attorney, something that the state of Alabama had for district and for circuit court was an electronic filing system that you could go ahead and file documents and litigate cases electronically rather than having to come physically to the courthouse and have to file documents. Saves time and expense, and also allows the court to also be able to get decisions back a lot quicker and not have to be in this whole 9-to-5 type situation. I think it expedite things, particularly now when we are dealing with these emergency orders, emergency petitions, where we have to go ahead and act within 72 hours and get decisions out to allow us to be able to schedule hearings and make decisions a lot quicker. But Chief Justice Parker with Alabama Supreme Court, I talked to him about one of my desires to create an electronic filing system. And so he, through the Alabama Administrative Office of the Courts, has had them come to the table with us to go ahead and create an electronic filing system for the probate court. And so we're working on that now, and we hope to have that system go live by April of this year. So we'll be the first probate court in the state to have an electronic filing system on the state's AlaFile system. So we're happy and excited about that.
JC, you know Tom Parker and I are the same age.
Oh, you all are?
We went to Boy State together.
Oh, you did? Oh.
In high school. He reminds me about that all the time. I'll see him at night at the state address, and first thing he'll say to me, he don't talk much. He's real kind of quiet, you know,
Yes.
real religious and real quiet. He'll say, Steve, I was your campaign manager in City 12 in Boy State when you ran for governor. I said, well, I sure didn't get enough votes. You didn't do a very good job. I didn't win. He was real quiet. He went to City Near High School.
Oh, he did? Oh.
JC, when I was growing up, they had more schools, but Montgomery probably should have had more high schools than they did. Cedric, remember this. Did Cedric grow up here in Montgomery?
He grew up here in Montgomery.
Lee and Lanier dominated. I'm talking about dominated sports. Lee or Lanier, one or the other, would win the state football championship.
Oh, wow.
For the top of the 6A.
Yes.
They win. One of them win basketball.
Wow.
One of them would win track.
Wow.
I mean, they won. And those Birmingham schools come down here and play Montgomery schools, and Montgomery beat them like 35-0.
Wow.
The Lee Lanier game was bigger than the Alabama Auburn game.
Wow.
People would get up. Tickets went on sale at Crampton Bowl for the Lee Lanier game, August 1st or something.
Yes.
They'd sell out by noon.
Wow.
You had to. That's how they'd sell out Crampton Bowl for the Lee Lanier game.
Wow.
It was such a big game. High school football was so big in Montgomery, and because Lee Lanier was so dominant, and those junior high schools that fed those teams, they were very sophisticated too. Like Baldwin was a feeder school for Lanier, I think, at that time, and Goodwin was one for. I don't remember good, but which Bellingraph was one for Lanier. There was Bellingraph Junior High School, and at that time
was it Cloverdale too?
Cloverdale, all those junior high schools, they were either feeder systems, and Lee had a coach named Tom Jones who later coached at Auburn, and Lanier had a great coach too, and they would have those junior high coaches, head coaches, teaching them the plays, so that when they got there, they didn't have to learn the system.
Oh.
They were preparing those kids in the 7th grade, so they ran the same plays and formations. So they were learning the formations while they were in junior high school.
That was smart.
That's how sophisticated that football program was here in Montgomery. but they would dominate. I'm talking about when they would play. And then it wasn't just they would play, but when they started having a playoff system, they'd wind up playing again for the championship.
Oh,
They'd play a Ligonier game, and then 3 weeks later they'd play for the state championship.
Oh, wow, that's something.
You know, because they would play two Birmingham schools, or
yeah.
one from Mobile or something, UMS or John Carroll in Birmingham, or somebody would come in here and get beat 40-0 or whatever it was, and by Lee, and then they'd beat somebody in Mobile 40-0.
Oh, wow.
And then they wound up playing each other. But it was you ain't heard how great a football program it is?
I've heard about it, but I didn't know, how big it was. I heard they both had great teams back
it was something.
in the past, but I didn't know how big it used to be.
People from small towns like Troy come up here and watch, if they get tickets and watch the Ligonier game.
Wow.
It was big as Auburn, Alabama.
Wow.
It was a big game as Auburn, Alabama, Ligonier.
Wow.
Because it'd be for the state championship.
Wow.
But anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that. But Jeff Davis came, and it sort of splintered off the number of kids. You know, they had more high schools then. Same way Cross Park and Park Crossing is doing that now. I think Park Crossing is going to wind up being a big dynasty football program eventually.
Yeah, they've come and really dominated things locally in a short period of time.
They do?
In about the past 5 or 6 years.
How many
they've been in
high school
existence.
football teams are there in Montgomery now?
I think we've got 5.
Ligonier,
Jeff Davis, Carver, and Park Crossing. So we got those
Is Park
5.
Crossing bigger in enrollment now, or are they all about the same?
I'm not sure of their enrollment numbers. But I guess they're pretty much about the same for the most part. But I'm not certain.
Do you and your wife ever go to high school games?
I've been to a few. You know, I was there for the Jeff Davis Carver game last year, and then I think I went to the Lee Jeff Davis game last year.
JC, go back to your job as probate judge. Do you have set a certain day, like for commitments? I mean, that job you got the mental health.
Yes.
Do you have adoptions too?
We have adoptions. We deal with name changes. We deal with guardianships, conservatorships. And so when you're asking about the commitments, I generally will have commitments every day. So generally I have 3 or 4 of those
certain
every
time
day.
or anything?
Generally that's like the first thing I'll hear. I go to bench of 9 a.m., so those are the first things that I hear every day. So that's about 16 at least a week that I will go ahead and deal with.
I guess you have to kind of defer to the mental health specialist to decide to tell you what the best thing to do, don't you? You can't decide if someone's or you can just tell just talking to them whether they're competent or not.
Well, no. A lot of times you will defer to the mental health specialist. The doctor will a lot of times give you a recommendation, and then you'll have a social worker there who's also has some interaction with the patient, and they will give testimony regarding the interaction about whether or not they feel they're stable enough to be, should they be on an outpatient basis where they're allowed to be discharged, but still will have to go ahead and go and do some treatments and show up for medication and take some classes, or they will need to be committed to the State Department of Mental Health for a period of time for evaluation and treatment.
Well, it's a big job. What do you think you had to say was the hardest thing, running the mental health, the adoptions, court part, or the administrative part, like the elections or that sort of thing, tag, which is the hardest job? You got people who get in there and run that tag stuff, can't you?
Well, I think for the most part, you have the workers who've been there who can kind of go ahead and make sure it runs well. But I think one of the things that I've really stressed since I've been there was really customer service, because I know that most people in Montgomery County, if they're going to interact with the probate court, they're either going to do it on the tag line, renewing their tag, renewing their license, or at the ballot box. And so we're really, for all our satellite locations and the location downtown, really trying to make sure that we get people out in a very timely and efficient manner, knowing people are going to come in, before they go to work on their lunch break, to make sure we get them out, and also make sure they get greeted by a pleasant face. And that's why I let everyone, everywhere I speak and everyone I come in contact with, I want to make sure that you have a pleasant experience when you interact with our office. And if not, then I want to make sure I know about it personally. But I think one of the two toughest aspects of it is that you're also dealing at the administrative side, that I think you've got 75 employees split out over 4 different locations. You have the 3 satellite probate offices on Mobile Highway, McGee Road, and Atlanta Highway, but then you also have the election center that's across the street. And so that's when that is really gearing up, when you're starting your training and getting your chief inspectors and your poll workers in, making sure your equipment and everything is up to date and making sure that you're ready to go with that. But you're also deal with the day-to-day issues with problems at your buildings, you know, where we had a break-in week and a half ago over at our west location on Mobile Highway. So that kind of was something that would kind of shift what you had planned for that day out of the way.
Were we trying to steal something?
Well, you know, we share that location. We split it with us and Department of Revenue. So someone tried to get in the front door, and fortunately they weren't able to get past the lobby area. So they got into the lobby and weren't able to get into either location, but still have to go and deal with the police, still have to call the glass guy out to go ahead and put some plywood up there and deal with the inconvenience of getting that area cleaned up. But you know, but those are just some of the things that you deal with. But I think from the mental health side, I think that's that's a large piece, because now you're having a lot of different pieces coming to the table. Just last week I was talking with Chief Finley, Montgomery Police Chief, and they're saying that what they're going to do as a department is now go ahead and have a mental health crisis unit, to go ahead and also incorporate training in their officers to go ahead and spot people who are undergoing mental health crises. And you know, they want to go ahead and now, as they pick them up, as a lot of has been done in the past when they came in contact with them, rather than maybe take them to the ER room and overload the ER rooms at Jackson and Baptist, that we need to go ahead and find and determine where we're going to take these people once they are identified. And so that's why we've gotten, you know, Baptist wants to come to the table, you know, as well as Sheriff Cunningham and Brooke Reed over at Montgomery County Circuit Court, and Darrell Bailey, the DA's office, and that we are willing to come to the table with resources now to really talk about mental health and what do we need to do as a city and a county to really tackle this problem. So we make sure that when we identify them, this is where we direct them to go. That once I do a commitment and they are released, this is how we track this person to make sure they're not coming back to me in 6 weeks, because they haven't taken their medication, they haven't followed up on their course of treatment. So we want to try to be as proactive as we can, and I know the solution is out there by looking at some other cities and some other models, and so that's what we really want to do now, is really take a serious look at the problem and see how we can properly address it.
Well, Judge, our time's up. I appreciate you filling us in on your new position as probate judge in Montgomery County. Folks, our guest tonight has been probate judge J.C. Love, a native of Montgomery and current probate judge of Montgomery County. And we appreciate him taking time out of his busy schedule, wears that job 4 or 5 different hats. We thank him for being with us tonight, and thank you viewers for watching. Hope you tune again next week for Alabama Politics. Thank you. Thank you.